Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Lakers Legends Basketball, Activism, and Health. I'm Dr. Medell Briggs Melanson, Interim Chief of Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the UCLA Hospital and Clinic System. Thank you again for joining us tonight. As we wait for more of our guests to enter the Zoom meeting, I'm going to go over a few programming notes and let you know what to expect over the next 60 minutes. All of our program attendees have been placed on mute. We thank you for submitting your questions in advance, and our legends will do their best to answer as many of them as possible during tonight's event. Also, please be aware that this program will be recorded, and the video will be available soon on the UCLA Health YouTube channel. All right, I'm looking, and it looks like we have enough people to go ahead and get started. So let's officially start it off. Again, I'm Dr. Medell Briggs Melanson, Interim Chief of Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the UCLA Hospital System, as well as an Associate Professor of Emergency Medicine at the David Geffen School of Medicine. During the next hour, we will listen to a great conversation with three well-known Lakers legends who will give us a peek into their time playing together for the Lakers, their commitment to social activism, and the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle, which also includes being an advocate for yourself and your family. And of course, we're going to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic and the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine. But before we do get started, I would like to personally thank several people who have made this event possible. Angela Amucha, Eric Glasner, Shonda Peterson, and our amazing UCLA Health IT and marketing teams. And I would also like to thank the Lakers organization and UCLA Athletics. As a land-grant institution, UCLA Health acknowledges our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We pay respect to the ancestors, elders, and relatives, past, present, and emerging. All right, let's go ahead and jump on in. I would like to first introduce the president of UCLA Health and the CEO of the UCLA Hospital System, Ms. Janice Spizo, who would like to say a few words before we get started. President Spizo.
Well, thank you, Dr. Briggs, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's event. On behalf of UCLA Health, it is our honor to host this exciting conversation in celebration of Black History Month, along with the Lakers organization and UCLA. Having real conversations and taking action to advance racial equity and justice in healthcare and in our society is a top priority for UCLA Health. We want to thank you all for making time to join us and congratulate you all for making this a priority to attend and welcome these special guests and each of you for tonight's event. Thank you.
Thank you, President Spizo. And you're right, tonight we're going to focus on some real conversations, and this will be a very special event. Next, I would like to introduce tonight's moderator, Martin Jarmond, who will introduce our esteemed guest. Martin is UCLA's new Director of Athletics, becoming the 9th athletic director and the first African-American in the school's 101-year history. Martin came to UCLA from Boston College, where he served as the school's Director of Athletics for 3 years. When he stepped into this role at Boston College, he also became the youngest athletic director of the Power 5 institution. We are very happy to have Martin now be part of our Bruin family. Martin, I'll turn it on over to you.
Thank you, Medell. How are we doing? Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this exciting, legendary Lakers, legendary people session that's going to be very, very informative. Before we jump into it, because I'm excited and honored to host these three guys, these teammates. I can tell you already, before we even got on, right when they came in, they started yapping and joking, and you could tell that there's a lot of love between these three teammates and people. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. First, I'm going to introduce James Worthy, AKA Big Game. You know, he wanted to be called King James, but we know now there's a different King James now, and that's wearing the purple and gold. So we're going to stick with Big Game, the Hall of Famer, 3-time champ, MVP with the Los Angeles Lakers. James, welcome.
Thank you.
We got Michael Cooper. I want to say Coop, and he said I could say that, so I'm going to say Coop. but 5-time Lakers NBA champion, 2-time WNBA champion as a coach and a Big Three coach. Michael, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And we've got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, UCLA Health Ambassador, and the greatest collegiate and professional basketball player of the 20th century. And he's a Bruin, UCLA grad. Kareem, welcome.
Thank you very much, Martin. It's nice to be with you.
All right, we want to jump in. We got some important things to discuss, but we've got to start with basketball. You guys were a part of the Showtime Lakers, arguably the greatest basketball team run that we have seen in sports, professional sports and basketball. Can you just give us a story or tell us what it was like being teammates, whether it's leadership, whether it was like to be a part of a winning culture, or if you got a funny story about one of you, we're open for it, but we want to hit that real quick.
Well, I think I'll take the lead here. You know, your job is always tough, but the people that help you get your job done are the ones that you really appreciate. So I'm on this panel with two guys I really appreciated. For example, you know, if I could manage to get a defensive rebound, and I knew if I looked in a certain area of the court, I'd see somebody out running ahead of everybody. And his name was Big Game. And you know, I could get the ball to him over everyone and save a few steps. So, you know, all those steps you saved me, James, I want to appreciate you right now and say thank you for that. And then there were other times, you know, we're playing the 76ers, and I got to deal with Daryl Dawkins, and he's about 265 pounds of crazy muscle. And, you know, who's over my back trying to help block his dunk shot is someone wearing number 21, Michael Cooper. So, you know, my job would have been a lot tougher if it wasn't for guys like these. And, you know, I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And, you know, it's a pleasure to see them here at this, in this moment, and know that they're both doing well.
I think for me, the biggest thing is that greatness starts from the top. And when Dr. Buss first bought this organization in 1980, he established that we were going to all be held accountable. And that drifted from Dr. Buss to Jerry West on down to the team. So, you know, I was so thrilled when I first walked in, and I never told Cap this, but to see him after growing up here in Los Angeles and see one of the greatest players I've ever admired, and now I had an opportunity to play with, Kareem has been a big time role model for me, still continues to be. And I was a jazz enthusiast, but he really opened up my world with jazz, with Miles and Coltrane and Herbie Hancock, just to name a few. So for him, I thank him for that, and I'll always love him for that. And then there's this guy that came from North Carolina, and he had a little twang in his voice when he got out here, but he done lost it now since he's been here. James Worthy was a player that was so mature, ahead of his time, and to watch him play in college, and then finally we got an opportunity to play together. These two guys, I'd walk down a dark alley, no matter what's going on, I know that I'm gonna be all right with them. So those two guys there I appreciate, but it was the fact that we held each other accountable on the basketball court, and we still do that to this day.
Well, I came in a little later than these guys, and obviously what I was coming to already was family. You know, that's the first thing I felt when I came to the Lakers. Dr. Buss had created a brand that you could only find it in Los Angeles. And it was started with that sky hook. Kareem's whole body of work has yet to be recognized by everybody. We know it, but arguably, without question, the best player that's ever played for what he did academically at UCLA, for what he did on the basketball court, and what he continued to do as an activist, as a spokesperson. Kareem tutored me when I first came to the Los Angeles Lakers. I needed about 18 hours to finish up my college courses. And I looked at the back of the bus And I saw this walking encyclopedia back there, and I leaned on him for a lot of advice. And then Cooper was the house that was always open. Whenever I needed a meal, whenever I needed to go, and just, I was a long way from home. And Cooper knew I was sad. He knew I was missing my girlfriend. He knew I hadn't adapted to California yet. So he took me in right away. His front door was always open. You didn't have to call him. You just had to show up, and you were getting a good meal and you could hang out. So, we just appreciated one another. I was late coming in. We did a really good job of monitoring one another constructively, and it became a great family of love. And that's what we established and what we still have.
That's all right. For everybody that hears, if you hear it say Cap, they're talking about Kareem. So I assume that's Captain. You already,
me.
like your teammates, everybody doesn't know that. So
That's
if
right.
you say Cap, that's Kareem.
Thank you.
Well, let's transition to activism. As everyone knows, this past year has been very chaotic in our country. Pandemic, social unrest, an election. I mean, you name it, throw it in there into the pot. And that's caused a lot of angst and concern and really passion and emotional outpouring from different individuals, different people, different segments. And it's also showed itself in sports this year quite a bit. So can you guys talk about activism, how you think about it, especially in the terms of the intersection with sports, how you see it play out, and what it means to young people as we think about social justice moving forward? And I'll start with you, James.
Well, activism has always been a major part of our history. We can go back as far as the abolitionist days, go back to Frederick Douglass. It's always been a part of our lives. The way we voice our opinions and our rights and our justices and injustices has always been around. One of the first activists I ever saw was, my college coach, who brought the first African-American to the ACC conference in 1967-68. It was Charlie Scott. And they did not like my coach for this. This was Dean Smith, who they wanted to fire and hang in effigy. But he was a bigger activist than he was a coach. He really was concerned. I vaguely remember my older brothers really mad because a young man at the time named Lou Alcindor wouldn't play in the 1968 Olympics, I believe. He refused because of the civil rights that was going on, in our country, and he stood for something. Kareem was always one of the biggest activists that I first saw and was around, and we see what he's doing now in today's world. So the platform that we have is given to us not to just play basketball and make money and be successful, but it's given to us to enroll people into what's going on in our lives and in our communities, and things we need to do, like vote and be heard. So I commend Kareem for being a lifelong activist and really empowering young people like myself, or younger people like myself, to not be afraid to speak your voice. Don't be afraid to lose something, sacrifice something for a bigger cause. So that's what I've learned over the years from people like Kareem and Jim Brown and obviously Martin Luther King and Medgar Evans and all of those who sacrificed before us, Bill Russell and Jackie Robinson in sports and things of that nature.
For me, it was I'm a little older than James, so I can go back to the day. And my grandmother, rest her soul, she passed away. And go ahead, Jay.
You're a lot older than me, actually.
Oh, well.
In that case, I'm a full-fledged senior citizen. So, but I go back to what my grandmother used to tell me. She passed away in 1974. She said, you know, Michael, coming up here in California, I didn't see a lot of racism, but we knew it was there. She was from New Hebron, Mississippi, and she used to tell me, you have to stand up for something. You see something, you got to say something. And I go back and listening to her talk about Sojourner Truth, Rosa Parks, again, listening to Kareem, Kareem, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, and those guys sitting at that table, making a stand for something that makes you proud to be, especially a professional athlete. But there are things in our society that we have to continue to fight for. And like I said, I didn't see a lot of racism for me out here. We were integrated in 1970 because in Pasadena, there was Mirror and PHS. And finally, we got a chance. Well, the first month of our integration, we had to walk to school. So I was walking like 3 miles to school to get there. So I understood what was going on, never had a chance to experience it too much. But you know what? Knowledge is power. And that's what I tell our youth today. You have to understand, get in the books, understand what the past was like, so you know when the future hits you in the face, you'll know how to deal with it. Sometimes, as Martin Luther says, not always trying to be nonviolent about it. But again, I kind of listen to Malcolm X too. Sometimes you have to stand up, put both fists up and fight racism with both hands. So for me, coming into sports and like James, I admire Kareem so much for the things that he stood for before he stepped on the court. And then the things that he did while he was on the court that made life easy for all of us at that time, young African-Americans playing in the NBA.
Yeah. That's awesome. You guys are great.
Cap.
Well said, man. That's all I could say. Well said. Thank you.
So Kareem, I want to stay here with you. And obviously, James mentioned your impact and your activism throughout your life and your career, especially early on when many others were not taking the stand and doing some of the things that you did. Talk to me about where that comes from, how you see today and the athletes now today, and how do you parallel that to your journey and what you've seen?
Well, you know, I just realized pretty early on that we all had an obligation to get rid of this burden of racism. And the only way that we could do it was to stick together. I was 8 years old when Emmett Till was murdered, and I couldn't understand it. You know, it didn't make any sense to me. It just made me feel like I was like a target in the country that I lived in. And I couldn't understand that. And I wanted somebody to explain it to me. My parents they didn't have the words, you know, they weren't that sophisticated. So I just tried to get every bit of information I could get on, you know, how do we change this? How do we beat this situation? Finally, when I was 13 years old, I read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. And that changed everything for me because it explained it all. And it told me what I had to do. And, you know, from that point on, you know, I wasn't going to be afraid, and I wasn't going to not take every opportunity to fight this. And my freshman year at UCLA, I had the opportunity to meet Muhammad Ali. And here we go again. You know, he was a mentor, he was a friend, and he was determined to stop all of this. And it was easy. When it came time for the Cleveland Summit, I was right there because I wanted to make sure that I did all I could because Ali had risked a lot for all of us. And, you know, that's how it goes. Ali said he was motivated because of, you know, what he saw Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson, what they had to deal with. And Jesse Owens at the Olympics, you know, he was aware of that. And, you know, he wanted to change that. And, you know, it goes from one generation to another. Ali met Malcolm X. Malcolm got Ali straight with the history that James and Mike were talking about. And again, it went from one generation to another. So that's all that's happening. Now, you know, LeBron and these guys, they got the bit in their teeth and they're making the kind of money that can be used to make real change. You see how LeBron is educating all the kids in the school district that he grew up in. He knows what he's doing. And he could be using his money to be partying, but he's not. He's putting his money to, let's say, investing in the future, the future of his community and the future of our people here. So, I'm really glad that we're doing it. It's still Black History Month, and this is so meaningful. I'm very glad to see what we're talking about and the effect that it has, because the message is getting through.
Well, I think for me, sports has always been America's comfort zone, but as Kareem said, the NBA, WNBA, making a bold step forward with the statements that they're making. And you know what? It's not just the African-Americans anymore. It's all races joining in to fight systemic racism and racism in general. So for these young players, and like Kareem said, their platform is so much bigger than ours, and the financial aspect that they can put into the community and into their voices is definitely making a difference. You saw this early on when this social injustice went on. The Black Lives Movement, you say it's Black Lives Movement, but there was white people out there, Hispanic people, Asian people. People are marching against racism, because at first it was only known to African Americans. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was just about us. Now it's spreading worldwide. So for that movement to proceed the way that we're going, that's the joy that I see. And you know what? The women of the WNBA making bold statements, and as Kareem just said, the NBA, them guys are doing it, and they're going to take us into the next phase of whatever we're going to do.
The NBA and the WNBA have always been leaders in professional sports as far as activism and social justice. And you saw a lot of that this summer. James, you got
Martin,
something to add to that?
One second. The young lady that got the guy out of prison.
Maya Moore.
Maya Moore, yeah.
Maya Moore.
From the WNBA. Awesome.
Yep.
Just
she
an
put
awesome
her career
story.
on hold to work on a guy in prison wrongfully convicted, and I think she worked to help overturn that. And she put her WNBA career, and she's one of the top 3, top 4 players in the game. Just put it on hold to do that.
Amazing.
And that's what we're talking about here. It goes from one generation to the next, and it's just getting stronger and stronger.
So let me add to this. James, you said don't be afraid to lose something, and Kareem, you talked about we all have an obligation to fight racism. I'm going to go off script a little bit and get into one of the questions we got, because I think it fits right here. And this is from someone that says, as a white American, what can I do to make a change in the social justice movement? So let's start with you, James. Can you answer that about how people can get involved and do things at their level to be impactful during the social justice movement?
That's a broad question. I guess I could start with, I didn't learn anything about Black history until I went to college. It just wasn't taught, especially in the South in the 60s and 70s. You couldn't find a chapter on Frederick Douglass or slavery or the history of our country. It was always swept under the rug. So anything to promote true history in our school curriculum. I could imagine 2 7th graders talking about the history of this country in real time and understanding where each had come from and seeing how that could create cohesiveness and chemistry. And no one is being taught racism. No one is being, forced to be a racist. My grandfather was a racist, born in 1887, I think. So all he would share with us was his life experiences and how much he hated white people and not to trust them. And my mother found out, and she started to disallow us to spend quality time with our grandmother because of the way he was speaking to us. So I get it. So back to your question, we need to find a way to get true history into our curriculum. So I would say, you know, look, promote that. And if you really wanted to instantly learn about Black history, you follow Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's history of books. He already talked about James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks, you know, all the poets and great authors, Black authors. Kareem has written many books on that. So I would say go to his library, get a good start there, and then that will open up your mind to a plethora of Black history, unknown, unfortunately, to a lot of us. Inventors, what we've done in this country needs to be heard. It needs to be understood so that we can have a better balance of the way we think in this world.
I would say,
Just got a new one, James. I got to share this with everybody. There it is.
Okay.
Dr. King, all of his writings just came out.
This was what it was like riding on the bus.
on the bus with him, yeah.
You know, you see Kareem, and
I'm still at it.
He read like a novel every 3 hours. So he would read it and he would like, hey, check this out. This is a good one. You know, it was constant sharing of information. So that's kind of how we rolled.
There you
More
go.
things change, the more things stay the same.
There you go.
Kareem, Coop, you got something to add to that question about what, if someone doesn't look like us, what they can do to help?
I think the first part is go to your local chapter NAACP, go to your local church, go to the library, find out like, if you want to get involved. Again, like I said, knowledge is power, and the more you know, the less you don't know. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. Wow. And Martin, and what I would add to what they just said, the best way for people to overcome all of this racism, make a friend that doesn't look like you. That's it. Call them up every now and then and ask them how they doing. And that, if we have that attitude, that's we're going to get to know all of our fellow Americans, and we're going to get more things done than we can imagine. That's how that works.
See, I'm 64 years old. I'm still learning things from Cal.
Hey, Coop, I was just about to say, I'm taking notes. We in church. Now, see, we would say we in church down in the South now. This feels like school and education right now.
This it's just some more of the same. You know, got a chance to talk to some of my old friends about what I've been learning, you know, and share alike, you know, that's how it goes.
All right, well, we're gonna move on and shift a little bit here to health, okay? Talking about health, and UCLA Health was so gracious to put this on. We wanna spend some time here just to talk about aspects of your health, preventative care, awareness, advocacy. You know, what do you do to maintain your health? What is mental wellness? So a lot to unpack here. So we'll start with just preventative care and awareness. As you three have looked at your careers athletically, and then after you stop playing, you know, what have you done to keep your overall health and well-being in the shape that you want it to? Can you talk to us about what you value, how you go about it? Because there have been a lot of questions. Everybody sees you all at the height of your athletic prowess, and then afterwards, you still look good, you still are doing great things. You know, how do you think about your overall health and well-being and preventative care and those things? Let's start with you, Coop.
You know, when you're a young person, 20, 21 years old, you think you're immortal. You go out and you stay out all night and you do whatever you're going to do, and you get up the next morning and you're bright and bushy-eyed. And you know, over time, it takes its toll on you. And I'm very, very fortunate that I did take care of my health early on. I tried to eat well as an athlete. Again, those are some of the things that are stressed in college as well as in the NBA. And if you look at a player like LeBron, the type of money that he has, he can pay to keep his body straight. But again, as you're coming up and you're going through that, exercise is important. I think eating right, getting enough amount of sleep are all important. And as we get older, and now that I've been retired and being at 64 now, I'm starting to feel some of the residual effects of not really taking care of yourself. About 6 years ago, I had tongue cancer, never ran in my family, oral cancer in my mouth, and all of a sudden I have that. I was able to eradicate that. I'm feeling pretty good today. But as we go through life and the tolls that basketball has taken on us, I've had a hip replacement about 6 months ago. I have tennis elbow, never played tennis in my life. And all of a sudden I got tennis elbow and I had to get surgery. So it's very, very important that you really take care of yourself. I think the two most important things, and I would tell any athlete this, and I tell my son now, who's 16, is get you 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, okay? And drink lots of water. You don't believe how much water can regenerate not just your body, but your mind, your brain. So for me, it would be that.
No, Coop, I'm gonna stay right there with you. Talking about tongue cancer and your hip. Talk about preventative care. Are there things that you've learned along the way that help you think about what we can do? Obviously, there's over 1,500 people that are listening to this. Not all of them are athletes, but just from a preventative care standpoint, what are some things that we need to be thinking about and doing?
Well, I didn't know at the time that tongue cancer is very prevalent in the Black community. There are 8 out of 10 6 out of 10 African Americans that will get oral tongue cancer, and I did not know that. And like I said, that never ran in my family. And the reason how I understood is that I had a slight, like a little cut on my side of my tongue. It wasn't ugly. It didn't get gross. It didn't turn green. It just wasn't healing. And I went to the doctor, and that's when I found out. So I would tell anybody now at this stage, you know your body better than anybody else. And your body is always sending you signals. And what it is, you have to listen to them. And now when something bothers me, I get to the doctor. I have my primary doctor care. I get there, I go over my thing, I do my heart, I do everything. My blood pressure is a little high now, and I don't want to go on blood pressure medicine, which is another illness that runs high in African Americans. And now I get out and I exercise. I don't exercise like I used to, but I get out and walk. So I think those things are important. But again, your body will tell you if something is bothering you. And it's just, as a young person, you don't want to listen to it. Oh, I'll get over that, or it'll go away, or no, you got to listen to it. And it'll give you the key for you to get some help.
And it's important that you said to go to the doctor when you listen to your body and go to your doctor. James, what do you do? I mean, I know you look good. We see you, we hear you, Al. How do you think about your health, your mental wellness, and what you do to help that?
Well, I think for me, I grew up in the South. So,
Were you from Gastonia?
Gastonia, North Carolina.
I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I knew you were from
Gastonia. Fayetteville. Yeah. But yeah, welcome to California from Tobacco Road. Yeah, I mean, look, I watched my grandparents and my mom and dad and what they ate and what we were forced to eat. A lot of fried food, a lot of salty food. So it starts from understanding, the history, your family history. So I got to the NBA. I used to stop at Burger King on the way to the game, pick up some Whoppers, fries, and eat it right quick and go play a game. I just wasn't informed. But I think when I became an athlete, you're forced to be in shape. In college, you're forced to run and be in the best shape of your life. You have physicals twice a year. You have doctors looking at you. They're monitoring your heart. So you kind of become aware of your health, and you're always in great shape as an athlete. It's when you retire. Excuse me. It's when you retire. Is when you have to tap in to your family history. Okay. Because if you don't understand that your mom had heart disease, your dad was diabetic, your grandmother had heart disease, unfortunately, a lot of time that flows down from generation to generation. So Black men in particular have a hard time going to the doctor. They almost have to be dead before they go get a colonoscopy. There's a lot of history in the Black community about health, the injustices in health, how they treated a group of women in Mississippi years ago. Obviously, we know about Tuskegee Airmen, and so the fear of going to the emergency room and going to the doctor. I don't think I went to the doctor until I went to college, to be honest with you.
Wow.
We didn't have insurance, I don't think. And so it was just, when we got sick, we went to grandmother's house and she took care of it. So the education of health has been highly promoted in my family. So I get it now. I don't miss doctor's appointments. I'm like Cooper. If you feel something, it could be something really simple to take care of, but if you let it go on and on and on. So I try to eat right. I try to understand my family history, which is full of heart disease and diabetic and high blood pressure. I'm currently on blood pressure pills to maintain. I tried for 5 years to eat no salt, to change my diet. It's just in my history. It's in my family. So being aware of those type of things can keep you alive, and how you eat and what you eat. Kareem, 20 years in the league. A lot of it had to do with his talent, but a lot of it had to do with his diet and how he kept himself in great shape. So I try to swim a little bit now. I try to ride my bike. I do everything I can so that when I go to see my doctor for my physical, everything's good. So just educating yourself.
Be aware.
Be aware.
Be aware.
James.
Understanding your family history. That's important because that determines a lot.
James, thank God for Robitussin, huh? Put a little tussin on it.
Hey, Cooper, hey, got to put some Robitussin on it.
You get a sprained ankle, you put it on there, let the tussin get down in there.
And if you run out of tussin, you put a little water in there, shake it up. Got more tussin.
Kareem, hey, we got a couple questions actually about how does Kareem stay so calm and so zen? Zen is the word used, zen. Obviously, you had a long career. James mentioned about your diet. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you think about mental health and just how you have maintained over the years, even after you've been playing?
Well, first I have to explain the North Carolina connection. My mom is from Anson County, North Carolina.
Yep.
Incredible cook. So, I just
Yes.
like that, I was raised by someone who knows how to cook and didn't give us a whole lot of trash,
Fried pork chops, fried
No,
everything.
no. Pasta, she and fish, and she made sure that it was balanced. And I just had that habit. I'm just really fortunate. But I think one of the keys to good health is keeping an accurate record, keeping accurate records of your health. So as NBA players, we had a ridiculous physical every year because it was given by an insurance company, and they're not going to insure anybody unless they know all what your freckles look like. Okay, so having that record when we retire, it's a lot easier to keep track of things. So for me, it really helped. It helped save my life because I had a lifetime of cholesterol, and I ended up, my coronary arteries I had blockages of 100, 90, 80, and 60%.
Wow.
I shouldn't be here, It's just that a lifetime of exercise enabled my heart to, we'll just push it over here. I think I made a new pathway in my heart for oxygen. I'm serious. That's what the doctor told me. So the whole idea, keep accurate records and know, as James said, about your family history, and know your own personal history from the time you were a child. If you can keep track of those records, you will have the advantage of knowing something's wrong earlier. And early analysis and observation of what's wrong really helps the person overcome whatever the problem is, because you get that early jump on it, you can beat it. That includes cancers and all kinds of things now. I'm surviving colon cancer, leukemia, and my heart condition. And it all has to do with just knowing what to do and being dedicated to it.
Hey, Martin, can I ask Cap one thing too?
Sure.
Kareem used to talk about yoga through his playing days. And I remember when I finished playing, I went overseas because I played in Italy, and I got me a yoga instructor. And that whole year I worked it. That was such a spiritual awakening for me,
Yes.
but that was granted to Kareem. So Cap, can you talk about that?
Happy to talk about it. I was, someone I went out with was into yoga, and she said, hey, you need to try it. She was into ballet, and she said the yoga was great maintenance. So I started trying it, and lo and behold, it kept me in the game as long as I wanted to play. I retired when I was 42 years old. That doesn't happen very often.
Wow.
So it definitely works. It's preventive maintenance. It's not that strenuous. You build up strength and endurance in amazing ways. It's really good stuff for you. So for people who have the opportunity, a yoga program is a wonder, and you don't need any equipment. All you need is a mat and some space, and it really works. And
you don't even need a mat sometimes. You can
sometimes, yeah, if you can't afford it.
For the first 5 or 6 years, I heard you say yoga. I thought you said yogurt. So I was eating a lot of yogurt. Thinking that one. I guess it worked out okay. But we always knew Kareem had the formula for longevity. So, I mean, it was right in front of us. We saw it every day. So we got a chance to see it, and we got a chance to practice it and follow some of his leads. It was amazing.
One last question before we move on here. Obviously, we've been through this pandemic, and it's been very stressful mentally for a lot of people around the country. I know this is something that a lot of our listeners want to know. If you had one tip to help with your mental health, what would be that tip as we're all from home, operating in a way that we're not used to operating?
I would say stay close to family. The people in your family that care about you, stay close to them, because they're looking out for you. You know that. You don't have to guess that. They wouldn't be there if they didn't feel like that. So stay close to them. If you're lucky to meet that special certain other person, keep that person close to you. But family is the greatest substitute. For those lonely moments, for those times when you're like, oh man, this is just too much. Talk to family, and it gets you over that hump.
I think for me would be stay stress-free. Okay, do some things, read a nice book or listen to some soft music, get out and take your brisk little walk around. But I do believe with Kareem is that stay close to family, and don't let them cause you stress though, but just stay close to family.
This has never happened in my lifetime before, this type of pandemic where everything has closed down, schools have closed down. You got very smart parents who are lawyers and doctors who are struggling to teach their kids at home. People have lost their jobs. It is a highly stressful and difficult situation. So you're going to get hit with stress. You're going to get hit with death. People have lost loved ones they haven't been able to say goodbye to. So the stress it's on you. So it's best to recognize that, hey, I'm feeling this way, and this is why. And for me, a simple walk, man, has really helped me just regress and regroup and reboot. And I tell myself while I'm taking this walk, and I just say, look, this is tough times. I'm alive. I can social distance. I can exercise. I felt that a little bit more exercise to get you breathing and get your heart moving, get your mind elevated helps. And I started to call a friend once a week. Some I keep in touch with on a regular basis. Some I had to find because it's anything that can make you feel good. But I think exercise is good, and just doing the right thing and keeping your family safe. It's hard. This is difficult. So you got to do what you can do to breathe on a daily basis.
Lean on family, as long as they're not stressing you, as Coop said, and take a walk, find what you have to be grateful for, call a friend. Those are good tips right there. So COVID-19 vaccine, we're going to talk about this. We know, I think one of you mentioned earlier, it might have been, I think it was you, James, that talked about the history in the Black community of distrust when it comes to the medical field. So talk a little bit about the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine. There's a lot out there of people not really trust getting the vaccine, especially in the African-American community. Can you talk about the importance of getting this done?
It is the most critical thing in our lifetime right now, is to get this vaccine. We have been hit with a virus unbeknownst to us, unaware of how it spread and the severity of it. We know now 500,000 deaths unnecessarily, but it is critical to trust the medical world right now. In the 50s and 60s, it was mostly white hospitals, segregated hospitals. They used Black people for experimentals throughout our history. We touched on that a little bit. So the trust has never been there. Like I said, I never went to the doctor. The first time I saw a doctor was Dr. Kane in 1964, 65, like 5 years old, and he made house calls. You couldn't go to his office. You couldn't go on that side of the town. And he was smart enough, well, he was thinking about profit, basically, to come into the Black community and serve Black people. So there's been a mistrust. But I tell people now, as you look around, you look in this Zoom and you look at the diversity now. Now your doctor might be your neighbor down the street, or he might be somebody or she that you went to school with. You know them and you trust them. So you don't have those fears anymore about the medical world. We have Black leaders who have taken, who we trust and we know. So I think there's been some change there that we can trust, and we need this vaccine, especially in the Black community. We need it because we've suffered the most because of our Black history and health. We have a lot of add-ons, high blood pressure, diabetics, and things like that. So when a virus catches on, so we need this vaccine, and we need it, like Morgan Freeman said, and lean on me. We need it expeditiously.
I got vaccinated a week ago, and I am with James as far as the trust factor, and I am ready to get back to normal living. And I think what we have to understand is that, and James just mentioned, this pandemic, this virus is really hitting the African-American community hard. And I just want to be an example for my kids, for people of color in my community. And that was the reason why I trust in science now. Dr. Fauci, I believe everybody is about the right cause, but there has been some distrust. But with all the information that we have received so far has put my mind at ease. The biggest fear I had as far as taking the vaccine was the needles. I'm afraid of needles. So I was fearful of that. But once I went over there, I just turned my head and I got it. And I'm so glad I did, because I'm just trying to be an example in my community, let people know that I'm not afraid. And if they're Michael Cooper followers or Laker followers, they can say, well, if Coop did it, then we can get it done. But for me, the biggest thing is I want to get back to some type of normalcy that we had before all this happened. I need my son back into school. We want to kind of have it normal, because the kids that are out of school now are missing so many important phases of their life. The social aspect, meeting girls, having friends and learning part of it. So for me, we got to get over that fear. And if there's anything I can do by taking it, I hope that I was able to help 2, 3, 4 other people to get the vaccine so we can get back to normal living.
Kareem.
Well, I'm really glad you guys mentioned the Tuskegee experiment, because that that is really the source mainly of all the distrust. And it's something that if the Black community is going to get through this and survive, they're going to have to get over that distrust, because these vaccines do work. I got my vaccine about 5 weeks ago, and my second shot, I've already gotten my second shot. So they've already found out that once you get the shot, even if you catch the COVID, you're not risking your life. So that's a very important part of that. So I urge everyone, no matter what your ethnicity is, get vaccinated. It's the wise thing to do.
Any other thoughts and comments about the vaccine? Obviously, Coop, you've gotten it. Kareem, you've gotten it. Big game, I imagine.
Mine's coming soon. Yeah,
Coming soon.
I think next week I'm getting the first one.
So it's critical to trust the medical world.
My arm was sore for like 2 days, man. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, which one did you get?
Shot.
That's because
Cat,
all
which
them
one did you
shots
get?
you were taking, all them hook shots, them sky hooks that you were taking.
No,
That's
but
why your arm was
it
sore.
was in my left shoulder.
Cat, which one did you get?
I got Moderna.
Okay, I got Pfizer. It didn't hurt. It hurt for about 2 hours, my arm. Other than that, it didn't hurt too much.
Hey, my shoulder was like, I thought I had a bullet in there or something.
But look, we got a few more minutes left. I'm going to jump into the questions. Obviously, thank you for submitting the questions. We can't get to all of them, but we're going to try to hit a few before we have to wrap up. One of them is, what advice do you have for young men and women who aspire to bring positive change and energy to their communities?
I think the first thing you would do is get as much information as you can on your community. Who are your representatives? Who do you send to represent you? Get in touch with your local chapters, whatever that may be. Find out what's needed in the community. Encourage people to fill out the census report so they know who we are and where we are. And that has a lot to do with, do we get, new roads fixed? Do we get schools? Do we get libraries? So there's a lot of information you need to know just within your several miles of parameters that you live in, your leaders, who represent you. Encouraging young people to vote is critical because I think what we saw in Georgia was a great example of the power of the vote, what Stacey Abrams was able to do down there. So I think you need to first start in your community, control your community, control who goes to Washington or to the state capitol to represent you. I think it starts there, and then those tentacles can spread out. As you get older, you start to gain more power, gain more knowledge, and then you go from there.
Get into your local church, fellowship with them, and the church has an outreach, a ministry, can take you into different aspects in your community.
I would encourage people who want to affect change to talk to the people, as James said, that know what's going on in your community and find out what the issues are. There are different issues in different communities. Find out what specifically your community needs. They might need Wi-Fi access. That really connects people to a whole lot of things that they wouldn't have been aware of. It's a key to modern life. So find out about that. There are all kinds of things that you can do, and also talk to your city councilman. That's someone you can go to complain to. Hey, there's a hole in the street, or the gas line is leaking, or our water service is not what it needs to be. You can go to your city council person and talk to them about it, and they'll do something. They can do something about it. So know all of those things. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And another question, what recommendations do you have for today's athletes, high school level, college, professional? What recommendations and advice do you have for today's athletes as far as social activism?
Yes, you know, don't believe the hype. You know, understand what your platform is and that you do have a voice. I mean, yes, sports is here for you to make money and earn a living. But I think any platform you get, whether it's your platform as the host of this Zoom, what you hold at UCLA, or whether it's what Kareem has done for Hillary Clinton, and you know, whatever your platform is, you know, develop one and have a voice about something. It may be many issues. It may be just one issue. You might just be into, you know, like I said, getting people to vote. So I think that's key going forward, that you have something that you are excited about and you go for it and you try to encourage people, because there's a lot of pieces to this. And your one piece, whatever that is, whether it's encouraging young people to read more, it could be a plethora of things, but whatever it is, you committed to it, and then your piece joins in with all the other pieces that people are activated about and what they're doing, and it makes for a healthy, full community.
I believe in order for a young person to be a student athlete, because there is a life after basketball, no matter how long you play. And Cap here played 20 years, and now he has a life after that. So if you get that education, that's your platform to do whatever you want to after whatever sport you're going to play.
Cap?
I would say the thing is, find out what the issues are. You know, what is meaningful to you, because the things that turn you on, that you get emotional about, that make you feel good, or the things that make you feel bad that you want to change, that's always a good motivation. So find out where you connect to the issues, to the problems, and do what you can to change it. Find people that feel the same way, and you know, that progress. Once you start making those connections, things start getting done. Problems start getting solved.
Find what you're passionate about, be committed to it, and know your representatives, know how you can impact change.
And find your allies.
Find your allies.
Yeah.
Before we close out, I want to offer you three any last words before we close it out here to all of our 1,500 plus guests who listened in.
I would have to say,
I probably should have called
say,
you. Let's start with you, Kareem.
Be conscious of yourself and your community. That awareness and that consciousness, when you get into it and you feel the love and the cohesion, that's what builds community. So, you know, I'm all for building community, and I hope all the people out there that have tuned in can accept that and be down with that sentiment. Good luck to everybody.
When it comes to your turn to be vaccinated, don't be afraid, get it done so we can get back out there in the community and enjoy life like it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. And remember to stay a student athlete, because again, like we've been talking along, knowledge is power, and we're gonna be all right and get through this. Let you know the Lakers love you. And if you got any questions or anything, feel free to call the Laker office and they'll get to one of us.
I would just say there's been a lot of history in our country, a lot that we've learned. I would just encourage young people to latch on to that and not let go of what we had just experienced this last few years. This was a big thing in our world. And so a lot of people came together in the last few years. I mean, really came together. Let's not lose sight of it. Let's not lose sight of it. Let's hang on to it. We're making some progress as far as being harmonious. A lot of people are starting to understand injustices and starting to understand what systemic racism is all about. And people are a lot healthier. They're starting to understand what it feels like to be healthy and not be afraid to go to the doctor. So let's hang on to this and not let it slip back, and we can move forward, continue to educate, continue to grow, and to try to continue to be a better nation.
Make a friend that doesn't look like you.
I was gonna say that's at the bottom of my page. Make a friend that doesn't look like you. Coop talked about things we have to continue to fight for. Big game, don't be afraid to lose something. It's bigger than yourself. Take a walk, get your mental health, call a friend. Keep accurate records of your health. Kareem talked about that. Get vaccinated, get your sleep, and drink plenty of water. Coop talked about that. Gentlemen, you guys have been great. Unbelievable session. I'm reminded you can access this later because there was so much you might have not been able to take all the notes like I was taking. You can access this later, everybody that's listening, at uclahealth.org/HEDI or on UCLA Health's YouTube site in 24 hours. It will be up. So again, I want to thank everyone at UCLA Health for bringing us together here. President Spizo, Angela behind the scenes did a great job. Eric, Shonda, Medell, thank you so much. UCLA Health. And finally, to our three panelists, Lakers, Legends, Showtime, Coop, Big Game, and Cap, Kareem, Michael, and James. Thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us your thoughts and your energy and your love. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best.
All right. We'll see you. Good night.
See you guys soon.
All right.
Later, Cap, Coop.
All right.
Okay, see you guys. Thanks.
Clever, I got a pool, so anytime you want to come, man.
Give me an hour. I'll be right over.
You got it.
All right.
See you, Coop. See you, Mark.
Yeah, bye, Clever.